We are live from Global Line TV. My name is Ding Akech, and I welcome all viewers from Kenya and around the world. And I will be your host for the next 25 minutes. Thank you for joining us. You can join the conversation on our social media handles, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Global Line TV. Debt crisis hit government, houses, and people lives. Unemployment, poverty push crime higher in cities. And social media and AI spread misinformation fast. And illegal logging endanger forests and wildlife. Kenya is exceeding its debt ceiling and has a total debt of around 12 trillion Kenya shilling, taking up to 65 to 69% of country's gross domestic product. But how is the rising debt and economic strain affecting government sources in livelihoods in Kenya? While the government insists the debts remain sustainable, economists warn the rising burden in tightening the country's fiscal space, forcing difficult choice between housing loans and funding essential public services. Global Line TV correspondent Sidi Omari break it down for us.
Kenya's public debt has climbed to approximately 12 trillion shillings, fueled by years of heavy borrowing to fund development projects, bridge budget deficits, and service existing loans. But as borrowing increases, so does the cost of debt servicing. Today, a significant portion of government revenue goes towards repaying loans, leaving less money available for public services.
I have changed some of my daily activities because of the high cost of living, like taking food from home to the office.
And sectors like health and education continue to face challenges.
We are now joined by Sidi Omari live. Sidi, which sector are feeling the pressure the most?
Health and education appear to be amongst the hardest hit. With debt payments taking priority, ministers are operating with tighter budgets, leading to delays in services and reduced development spending.
When you speak to Kenyans on the ground, how visible is the debt pressure in their day-to-day lives?
It's very visible. Many Kenyans say higher taxes and rising prices have reduced their purchasing power. Households are cutting back on essentials, while small businesses struggle with high borrowing costs and reduced consumer spending.
Is the government offering any reassurance?
Yes, authorities say they are focusing on fiscal discipline, restructuring costly loans, and boosting revenue collection. But analysts caution that the impact of these measures will take time to be felt.
Thank you, Sidi, for shedding more light on this issue. To help us understand Kenya remains sustainable and what option does the government have moving forward, we are now joined by Mr. Christopher Legelisho, an economist. Welcome to Global Line TV. To start us off, how would you recommend the current fiscal pressure facing the country like Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania?
So it's the way it's fueling. I wouldn't argue it's fueling inflation because we've actually seen inflation declining over the last, I would say, a year or year and a half. But the reasons we're seeing pressure, it's forced government to increase taxes over the last 2 fiscal years. And
when we talk about the debt burden, how does it affect the daily livelihood of ordinary people, especially low-income families?
The result of that has been Kenyans have less disposable income to spend, and as you mentioned, government has to solve the problem of paying the debt service.
What are the risks of relying heavily on increased taxation during economic hardship?
We've seen businesses have struggled in this economy. When we go and talk to our clients, they mention that the business performance has lagged previous years. the consumer is not able to spend on the products that they used to, so they've kind of downscaled in some, especially the consumer goods. Households as well have shifted. You don't see people going out as much, people carrying meals to their offices rather than eating at restaurants. So there is cost saving that you see households trying to achieve, to be able to just manage this high cost of living environment. So the taxes have taken away from consumers in that regard. And it tends to affect overall growth in the economy, where growth would have been much faster. It's slowed down because consumers are not spending, businesses are not able to invest because of this tax environment.
Thank you for your time. Crime and violence are on the rise in many urban centers, causing fear and uncertainty among residents. From robberies and assault to gang-related violence, insecurity is becoming a daily concern, especially in crowded neighborhoods. Many of those involved in this crime are the young people, and this has a renewed debate over what is driving them into a violence. Is unemployment and poverty the driving reason of crime and violence in urban areas? To help us unpack this issue, we are joined by a criminology and security analyst, Mr. Musafiri Albert.
Crime and violence are rising in Kenya's urban centers, with unemployment and poverty often blamed as key drivers. Many young people lack jobs and stable income, making them vulnerable to crime, drugs, and gang influence. Residents say insecurity has disrupted daily life and businesses, while police warn that criminal networks exploit idle youth. Experts say without job creation and stronger social support, urban crime will remain a major challenge.
To help us unpack this issue, we are joined by a criminology and security analyst, Mr. Musafiri Albert. Thank you for making time.
Thank you for having me.
Right into it, what is your take on the current criminal situation in Kenya, especially in Nairobi?
Okay, thank you once again. Now, when we look at the general crime dynamic or general crime overview of Nairobi as a city or even Kenya as a country, we see that there is a significant rise in crime. However, there is also, when you look at statistics, for example, the economic report of 2025 from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we find that there is fewer cases that have been reported this year, indicating a drop in crime. However, when you come to the ground, when you look at the situation actively on news and social media, you see that there is an increase in crime. So there's a significant increase in crime. However, I'd say that there's a bit of loss of trust for the authorities or the police. So you see that people do not go to report these cases to the police. You see that the people prefer posting about them or even doing what we call mob justice in some cases. So there's an increase in citizen, quote unquote, citizen response to crime, and an increase also to crime itself, but there's not necessarily better reporting of the crimes to police stations. I'll give you some statistics if I may. We see that most crime categories, according to the report, have declined. However, we see a rise in criminal damage, 0.8% increase. We see offenses involving police officers have also gone up 37%. Penal code violations, 16%. We see homicides slightly decreased from 3,031 cases in 2023 to 3,015 in 2024. And we see that also the US Department and the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office have noted a rise in crime rates and kidnappings in slum areas, and have thereby also warned their citizens to be wary of walking at night in such places.
Do you think poverty and unemployment are the main triggers of crime in Kenya?
When you talk about crime, crime has very many dynamics, but generally, as you said, as the saying goes, that a hungry man is an angry man. There is a bit of truth to it. You see that high levels of crime are usually underlined by high levels of youth unemployment and poverty. You see, for quote unquote, people usually say that they need to survive. And if you need to survive, sometimes if there are no morally viable ways of making a living, some people do tend to turn to crime. So we can say that yes, high levels of unemployment and poverty do underline the crime dynamic. However, we also note socio-economic disparities and rapid urbanization being some of the reasons for increase in crime. Corruption within within the criminal justice systems and weak law enforcement can also boost crime, the rise in crime. Another one, I'd say, be delays in administration of justice. That's why you see people turning to citizen justice. As I said again, things like mob justice. It's not justice necessarily, but it's just people taking justice in their own hands, taking matters in their own hands because they feel the authorities are not taking care of them or are taking too long to dispense justice.
Do you think the mistrust between the public and police make it harder to fight a crime?
Yes, it definitely makes it harder to fight crime. You know why? If I am the person that is charged by the Constitution to protect life and property and to be able to enforce the law, I need information to be able to do that, right? And I need the public to trust me so that I'm able to dispense my duties. Now, I've mentioned something like community silence when I was talking about the 309 gangs that are known to be operating in Kenya, according to the report that I just read. One of the things that enables crime is people not reporting the crime. And when the people report a crime, they only report a crime if they trust that the people they're reporting the crime to will do something about it. You understand? But it seems like the police are either slow to dispense justice or a bit, there's a bit of a crash, a clash when it comes to reporting or relating with the public. So if the public do not share information, then the police will have a harder job to do. We will not know where the criminals are hiding if you do not tell us where the crimes are happening, you understand? But now I think a lot is being done to improve the relationship between the public and the police service, so that, matter of fact, even changing the name from police force to police service was part of the effort to change the face of the police, change the relationship between the police and the public.
Do you think weak family structure or follow-up arresting play a big role in raising a crime rate we are seeing today?
Absolutely. I think, yes, if the family structure is weak, if there's a dysfunctional family, then we see a dysfunctional product of the family. We see criminals, we see people that do not have no capacity for rational thinking, or they can't make logical decisions. Sometimes they're more drawn to crime because of things that happen in early childhood development.
What is one key thing Kenyan must get right to reduce crime and improve justice?
The things that the main causes of crime that we talked about were high levels of youth unemployment and poverty. Now, if as a country we want to get it right, we focus on a couple of things. Number one, the family. If we empower families and we empower we incentivize them to be functional, then we can start dealing with the problem from when the children are young. Number two, if we do a bit of investment in high crime neighborhoods by providing economic programs to these youth that are jobless, these youths that are being recruited into gangs, then maybe we can see a better reduction in crime in the city. Another thing would be to increase the dispensation of justice by the criminal justice system. If we see a better relationship between the public and the police, between the police and the courts, then maybe we can see a bit of reduction in crime and a better response to dispensation of justice. Another thing would also, what other thing would I recommend? that would really help. A bit of civic education if we educate the youth on alternatives to gang life or alternatives to crime, and actually the government supports, if the government supports with increasing institutions and scholarships and models that would allow people to be educated and to be employed or to even to start their own businesses, then we can see a better reduction in crime in the next 5 to 10 years. Yes.
All right. Thank you for your time. Let's go for a short break. Do not go far. Coming up next is social media and AI fueling misinformation and shaping public perception. Stay tuned.
Insist on the longer-lasting battery. Ever ready. Shika Paka Power.
Social media and AI are fueling misinformation and shaping public opinion. Behind it all, artificial intelligence is making it easier for false information to spread quickly, shaping how people think about politics, health, and social issues. From fake news posts to AI-generated images and videos, misinformation is becoming harder to identify. How is this happening? Global Line TV correspondent Juliet Kamau reports.
Social media allows information to spread fast, but AI tools can now create realistic fake content that looks real and trustworthy. Algorithms often push such content because it attracts attention, helping misinformation influence public opinion and cause confusion, especially during major events.
I've seen situations whereby news turn out to be fake, but later on when you realize from different sources they are wrong. So
Intelligence are increasingly fueling misinformation and shaping public opinion in Kenya. Experts warn that AI-generated content and viral posts can spread false information rapidly, influencing how people perceive events, politics, and public policies. While these technologies offer opportunities for communication and innovation, they also pose risk by amplifying rumors, deepening polarization, and undermining trust in credible sources. Authorities and digital experts are calling for stronger regulation, media literacy, and fact-checking initiatives to curb the spread of misinformation. Juliet Kamau reporting for Global Line.
To help us break this down, we are joined by Projects Director at Internews Kenyan Safe Space, Mr. Abram Marita. Thanks for being here. What makes false information so easy to believe on social media?
False information is usually very easily believed, mostly because what we call confirmation bias. So these are the biases that each one of us has towards particular things or people or information, so that when a false narrative is presented to us, it's easily believed than what is true, because it's more or less confirming our beliefs, and it is actually the main cause that makes individuals continue spreading false information or misinformation in this case. However, AI has advanced, and now AI is being used to be able to easily convince people about a particular thing. So there are people who would spread information that they are not sure if it's false, or true, but it's believable, it looks believable, what we can call malinformation. In this case, AI can be able to develop a deep fake, so a deep fake or an image of an individual that looks real, or even a voice, a video, so that it's more or less like a true representation of the original version of the person who did this. So with the development of AI, these kind of narratives are easily spread because they tend to look believable.
How are young people being affected by misinformation on social media?
One thing that is important to note is that among us, the majority of our Kenyan population, for example, is young people. And these young people are the ones who are basically accessing social media, using social media for communication, interaction, accessing news and information. And therefore, when we talk about harms in these digital platforms, it means they are the ones who more or less be, affected. And so this is severe, and because of that, during their interaction, then they will be also the ones who are spreading it more than other populations in our country or community, and therefore that basically exacerbates the spread of mis and disinformation.
Based on current trends, what does the data suggest about the future of AI-driven misinformation?
I think it will only get worse. It will get better. It will only get worse, and it will get better at being itself. Like, things will be very hard to basically understand whether it's fake or not. It will look much more convincing because we have seen the advancements, like especially even in videos. Initially, when AI was being used to make videos, you'd see, for example, an individual, even photos, for example, with like 6 fingers, or maybe the eyes are not aligned, the nose is awkward. In videos you'll see like there's some difficulty in movements, but right now every other development is bringing about enhancement in terms of this kind of content. So it will only get worse, worse in spreading bad information, but better in becoming more convincing. What we are worried about is if we do not have a community that is well informed in terms of understanding different harms online and how not to spread such information, because it only continues the spread of harmful information, and even the ability of journalists to do fact checking, then it means we will not be prepared if, for example, we are in a crisis situation, maybe where there is a conflict in communities, and social media is being used as a tool to spread this information. So it means the harm will continue much further because we do not have a prepared society. So therefore it means we need much more digital media literacy for the public, as well as fact-checking training for journalists to be able to have us ready to deal with the enhancement of AI.
In your own view, do you see AI becoming more of a solution or a threat in fight against misinformation?
I think regulatory, because the other ones are mostly being pushed by other sectors of society, like the private sector, which has money, and they are basically the ones doing and putting money into advancing AI, its development, its use, its spread. But when it comes to now regulation, it's very slow, because this is a technical thing that takes place within different sectors in society, either from civil society to government, and government to legislators to be able to develop proper regulations that can be able to safeguard our society. What we have seen, for example, in the country, yes, we have advanced, we have tried in Africa to have an AI strategy framework for the next 5 years or so. However, this is just a framework. It's not more or less like legislation around AI. How are we governing use of AI in the country? We still don't have that proper legislation. We cannot govern AI itself, but we need to govern how it's being used, or or the kind of content that is going to harm the community, and how we can prevent that. So if we don't have, for example, proper trained legislators around these issues, it means it's going to be slow. So it needs proper investment in to ensure that everyone who's being involved is well trained, well informed, and we can be able to have legislation that are promoting or protecting human rights, but as well as promoting innovation in the AI sector. So it doesn't limit the development of AI.
Thank you for taking time to be here. Illegal logging in Kenya's Mau Forest complex is raising a serious concern among scientists and local communities. The forests are critical water towers for the country, continue to face destruction despite protection efforts. Global Line TV correspondent Mildred Odhiambo asked the details.
The Mau Forest, Kenya's largest water tower, is under renewed threat from illegal logging. Indigenous trees are being cut for timber and charcoal, weakening ecosystems that support wildlife, rainfall, and major rivers. Experts warn that continued destruction could worsen droughts and harm livelihoods as authorities struggle to fully curb the illegal activities. Illegal logging in Kenya's Mau Forest is posing a serious threat to both the environment and local communities. Experts warn that the continuous removal of trees is causing deforestation, which disrupts water catchment areas, threatens wildlife, habitats, and contributes to soil erosion. The loss of forest cover also impacts climate patterns, leading to unpredictable weather that affects agriculture and livelihoods. Authorities say that unless stronger conservation measures are enforced, the forest and the communities that depend on it could face long-term ecological and economic consequences. Mildred Odhiambo reporting live for Global Live TV.
We are joined by environmental scientist and a lecturer at Technical University of Kenya, Dr. Jane Oteki. Thank you for joining us. To start us off, what role can local community play in restoring and protecting the forest?
The local communities protected this very well. If you look at the indigenous societies, this was done very well. But currently, the problem we are having is that one of encroachment. And encroachment because of our needs and wants. That is the major problem. So if our needs and wants are taken care of, then there should be no encroachment. The communities do not even need to be taught. If you look at the Maasais and other ethnic groups in the ASAL areas, they protected their resources very well. They knew when to move to a wet area, when to move away from that wet area. Indigenous knowledge is very, very important. So for the communities, we need just to give them the provision of the needs, the wants, and those communities will be able to continue living with the wild animals, with the plants, just the way they did before.
From your experience, what major ecological change do you see in area affected by illegal logging?
The different ecosystems would have different people in those ecosystems. And as I have said, looking at the way the indigenous knowledge that they have about those areas, they will be encouraged to plant trees, but plant the right trees. You're not going to plant eucalyptus tree in an area that has got very, very little. People have actually tried to do that, planting eucalyptus trees in places which are really meant for acacia, and this has failed. Yeah, so we need to really look at what kind of trees do we grow in these places and try to maintain the ecosystem with those particular plants and plants, especially trees that are for that ecosystem. Bringing in others from other areas may not be useful. Yeah, I have seen in the Savannah region, people have planted eucalyptus and the eucalyptus are stunted. So that should tell you that let us look at the particular tree that originally was in this place and enhance that one.
Thank you for your time and detailed information. That brings us to the end of our bulletins. Join the conversation on all our social media platforms at Global Line TV and share your views using the hashtag GlobalLineTV. Thank you for watching. Have been your host, Being a Kid.